Welcome back to Self-Defense 360. This time around I want to do something a little bit different. Instead of showing you defensive techniques to fight off a violent attacker, I want to kind of go into what to do after an attack happens. Welcome to Oh Shit Medicine. As you know, I'm an Army medic and I work EMS on the civilian side. So I've seen a thing or two when it comes to trauma. What we're going to be going over is some of the basics. A big one is going to be how to improvise medical treatment when it comes to trauma and different kind of scenarios that you might run into. I want to go over gunshots and blunt force trauma, any sort of airway compromise, things like that. So if for some reason you're in an awful scenario, you get shot, someone you know has been shot, either home invasion, school shooting, any tragedy like that, you'll know how to care not only for yourself but for anyone else involved. This will also apply to things like car accidents, falls, bear attacks. All the techniques are going to be more or less the same for whatever trauma we're addressing. And without further ado, welcome to Oh Shit Medicine. Let's get started with episode 1. Oh shit! Oh shit! So one of the main goals of Oh Shit Medicine, and one of the things I've been thinking about a lot, is these all too common mass shootings these days. In these instances, you have a lot of victims with varying wounds of varying severity, and help isn't always going to be there soon. Yes, the police might arrive quickly in order to eliminate the threat, but they have to engage the threat, eliminate the threat, and then make sure that the area is secure before medical help can ever arrive. In that time period, which could be as short as 20 minutes and as long as an hour before paramedics arrive, is where you're going to lose a lot of people or from injuries that they might have been able to be saved from. So this series might give you the tools to help either save yourself or someone you're with, friends, family, or even just a bystander. For episode 1 of Oh Shit Medicine, we're going to be going over assessments. Your assessment is the first thing that you need to do because you need to identify the injuries that you need to treat in order to keep someone from dying or being even more injured. I'm going to be doing it the Army way because the Army way addresses a field environment with a lack of resources, a lack of backup, and they're just more accustomed to trauma. So in the Army, we use the acronym HABCs, and that's used to identify the most lethal injuries to the least lethal injuries, or the thing that's going to kill you the fastest, to put it more simply. H stands for hemorrhage, so any major hemorrhage is going to kill you very quickly. A is for airway, because if you can't breathe, you have probably less than a minute to live. B stands for breathing. Just because you have a patent airway does not necessarily mean that you are able to get air in and out properly from your lungs. And then C stands for circulation, looking for how well your tissues are perfusing. That's going to be one of the last things we cover, but it's also going to be incorporated in every level of care that we do and everything that we do in this series. So without further ado, let's get to it. So for the rapid trauma assessment, we don't have a cameraman, so I'm going to have my assistant stand there, and I'm going to walk you through it. You're going to do a head to toe, and you're just going to be looking for really basic things. All right. Are there any bleeding from major areas? Are they breathing? If they're breathing, can you hear the air going in and out, and how well is air going in and out? You're also going to be looking for any deformities, so like anything that would indicate broken bones, broken ribs, anything like that, and their mental status. So are they awake, are they able to talk to you, etc. There's not going to be a whole lot you can do about head injuries, and any neck or spinal injuries is just going to be some basic splinting, which we'll go over in another video. But let's show you the rapid trauma assessment. Alright, so like I said, we're going to go head to toe. Right? We're going to pretend that she's lying on the ground. First thing we're going to do is we're going to talk to them. Hi, can you hear me? What's your name? If they respond appropriately, that's a good thing. If they don't respond appropriately, that's a bad thing. If they can't respond at all, that's a really bad thing. Alright, next, you're going to palpate their head. Alright, you just squeeze it, you feel if anything's off. Next, you're going to feel the back of their neck. You're going to feel to see if there's anything really wrong with their spine, as well as doing a quick blood sweep. Alright? After that, I like to go under the armpits. You'll work your way down, see if there's any blood. If they're wearing like long sleeves or a coat or something, you want to do a quick swipe down each limb and see if any blood comes out or comes up on your hands. Alright. In the crevices of your limbs are going to be major arteries, as well as around the neck. So if you get any blood, especially bright red blood, that's a bad thing. You need to address that before you do anything else. Alright? Next, you're going to look at their chest. Alright? Are they breathing normally? Or even if they're breathing rapidly, is their chest movement equal? If you find like a part of their chest that's moving unequally, that's bad, you have to address it. You're also going to be looking for any holes. So if it's a shooting, for instance, you want to see if there's any gunshot wounds that you need to address. And then you're going to palpate for the integrity of the chest cavity. So for that, prayer hands, you work your way down the sternum, come out, just press in along the ribs. You're looking for any broken ribs or anything that just feels off. We already looked for blood when we did our quick sweep. So now we're going to do opposite directions on the limbs, as well as a quick rotation of the joints. You have major arteries running down each limb, so a broken bone on the inside can cause internal bleeding, which can be dangerous. Next, you're going to do the same thing for the legs. I'm not going to do that, but it's the same basic principle. Alright, next thing you're going to look at is the hips. You can actually lose your entire blood volume into your stomach and pelvic cavity. So I want to make sure that if this is a fall or really any sort of major trauma, that it didn't fracture the pelvis. Because fracturing the pelvis can fracture major arteries that are in the pelvic area. So I'm just going to push in, and then if they're lying on the floor, I'm going to push back or down with a little bit of force just to see if there's any instability. Next, I'm going to work left to right, top to bottom on their abdominal cavity. I'm just going to press in, roll out, press in, roll out, press in, roll out, press in, roll out. What you're looking for is any tenderness Is there any pain on palpation? Is their stomach like extended? Like it feels like something's pushing back on you, not just musculature or anything, but like, is there any way that their stomach is filling up with blood? Is what you're basically looking for. So that's going to be your rapid trauma assessment. Like I said, you're looking for your HAVCs. So if you find any blood when you do your blood sweep, you address that first. And I'll be covering that in the next video. Next thing you've got to worry about is your airway. Can they breathe? If their airway is blocked by anything, the most you can really do is positioning, unless there's something in their mouth or throat that you can pull out. But don't stick your fingers in someone's mouth. That's how you lose fingers. All right. Also for breathing, you're going to do what's called a head tilt chin lift. You're just going to rotate their head up. Yes, if they have a traumatic neck injury, you don't want to manipulate that too much, but if it's a trauma and they're not able to breathe, you need to worry about the airway, because that's going to kill them a lot quicker than a broken neck. So you're going to rotate it up into a sniffing position and try to open their mouth so that they can get air in and out. All right, and then you look at breathing also in the chest. If there's holes or fractures to the chest, which we will go over in our next video, you need to address those right after you address your hemorrhage and your airway. Circulation, you're going to be looking at their lips, their skin, and checking for pulses. And I will show you that as we go along. All right, until next time.